Well, hello, everybody. This is Daniel Kilburn. I'm back with Emergency Action Planning and the Act ASAP podcast. And we're running up here on our second episode of our eCERT program series with Mark Matheson, who is the founder of the eCERT program. And as I mentioned last week, today we're going to be looking at what we call powering the network. How does eCERT work? So, Mark, you mentioned last week that you're looking for 1,000 members in the organization, so to speak. Now, that doesn't mean just 1,000 people. We're talking about 1,000 NGOs, so to speak, scattered across the country. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's exactly correct because each membership is 6 to 25 people.
Okay.
Um, our price point or our structure, for lack of a better term, we can't sufficiently manage assure that memberships are getting the services they deserve. If we do any more than 1,000, and
Okay.
a thousand membership is the number that I feel that we can manufacture Mavis units within 3 years.
Okay.
So we'll be manufacturing, 25 to 30 Mavis units a month to basically keep the pace. So, yeah, that's a tall order for something new, but it's reasonable. I can do that. Anything more than that, I think I'd be shooting myself in the foot.
Okay. So you mentioned that, okay, you talked about your 1,000 deployable teams. They're scattered across the country. They're not all in Oregon or California or Colorado or wherever. They're all over the country because,
Texas or
yeah,
Florida, or it doesn't
okay.
matter. They're all over the place.
Now, you mentioned somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 million in assets. Now, what does that actually mean? How does the network actually function in practice?
Well, the $500 million threshold is because we're providing $500,000 per membership to jumpstart their program. So
Okay.
you times that, it's easy math. It's 500 times 1,000, and that's the number you get.
Okay. That
So
makes sense.
it,
Got it.
yeah, so basically, is that, but more importantly, what it does is it signals that we're providing $500 million worth of assets, worth of equipment, Mavis units, all sorts of equipment and services for the membership. And that amount is $500 million worth of resources without having to go to Congress, without having to ask for any more money from FEMA. This is purely independent, and they survive from the money that the states are just FEMA is dispersing to the states. So basically, the Mavis services and units function as the same as a FEMA generator being sent to a disaster.
Okay.
That cost is taken off the top of the price of mitigation, and so the Mavis units and the members are that's how they get paid. So, from that aspect, the 500 million only covers only accounts for the material, the resources. It's not the value that the members provide to the eCERT program, because I don't think I can measure that. That is just a lot of people. That is a lot of added value to a program, and potentially, if every membership has 25 members, that means there's 25,000 people that can be deployed to one site, to one disaster overnight. That's
Okay.
if, that's a pie in the sky kind of thing, but potentially that's there. But again, our schedule is 3 years. What happens after 3 years, that's a different story. But right now we're focused on the next 3 years.
Okay. So we're in the building process right now, correct? So out of all the people that
Yes.
have listened, I know some of them have probably reached out by now. So tell me, and let's walk through the process of the membership process. How does a group actually
Okay.
become a member?
Sure.
What's the activation application all about? How do we do that?
Well, the first step is basically, if they're not watching this podcast and they come across it, I would recommend people watch your podcast for the first for the first one we did and the next one that we're going to be doing, and they'll get an idea. If they think the eCERT program is something that they can get involved with, then they contact us or they can contact you. And then what happens is an intake officer will directly call them, and they'll go through an intake process where we find out what their interests are. So we already know they're going to have a Mavis unit, but is there interest, like I said before in the last one, or is there interest of putting a task force or a strike team together with drones, or having a combination of drones and other different search and rescue or search and rescue teams, or those types of teams. So the intake officer will basically spend some time with that person, so to find out what their interests are. After that, then there's a sequence of agreements and conversations that happens between the eCERT, the membership, and the committee and the program service center. That at the end of the day, the membership will have an outline on how to be sustainable. They'll have a course of action that they can go by that not make sure, because nothing's ever guaranteed, especially in disaster response, but surely they're on a path to be sustainable, meaning that they're able to earn enough income to be recommissioned for the next year, because every membership needs to be recertified and commissioned every year. So
Okay.
that makes sure that the membership are trained, they're able to go out into the field, and everybody is familiar with the equipment and what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be doing in the field as they determine. But before they even go down that road, we provide them an of an outline for their program, and then of course they can rewrite it or modify it to fit their area. But
Okay.
we're
So,
there to help them every step of the way.
okay. So you mentioned $500,000 or $500,000 worth of equipment and support to the teams. So the question is here, who's supplying that money? You're telling me that the teams don't have to come up with the money. They're not buying the Mavis unit. They simply have to show up, be part of the program, and then they'll receive the equipment to use in behest of supporting the community they're working in. Is that correct? But how is this
Yeah,
actually
that's correct.
funded?
Well, it's funded internally. So basically the program itself, how it's organized and how it was written, and they basically underwrite. They will underwrite the cost. We're manufacturing the Mavis unit, and that Mavis unit is approximately, the market value is $225,000. So that takes up about 47% of the equipment that we supply them. The remaining 55% is the equipment that they select that they're going to pair up with Mavis units. So, but that's all internally funded. So we make sure that they have the equipment, they have all the technology ready for them. And of course, again, going back to the Franklin D. Roosevelt quote that I used in the last podcast, our mode of operation is we're not going to be concerned about the cost of a garden hose when the house is on fire, when the neighbor's house is on fire. So we're not worried about it. We do know that this industry is a $1 million-billion industry.
Oh, yeah, it's a trillion
So
dollar
there's
industry.
no
Yeah.
there's there's no question. There's no question whether if the money's there or not, or if the demand is there. We just make sure that they have the tools to be
Okay.
out there in the field for at least 45 to 75 days a year. And that's it. So once they're able to meet their first year obligation for that $500,000, they can continue working or they can take the rest of the year off. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But they
So,
have to they do know, excuse me, but they do need to know that next year on their anniversary, they're going to have to lease that Mavis unit again. So, and that comes part of the recommissioning.
Okay.
So basically, your $500,000 cost in the first year is dropped down to $225,000 for every year afterwards, because we don't have to buy any more equipment. We don't have to buy the tents. It's already there.
Okay.
But
But the money is
if
not
a,
coming out of the pocket of the membership.
uh, to answer it honestly, is that we're waiting for them to get paid by the federal government, and then we get our money.
Okay. So it's okay. That makes sense. They need to actually go to work and start generating some money for themselves, which will help generate money for you and creating of the Mavis units and all the supplies.
Well, it's not generating money for me. They're just basically meeting they're just basically meeting the program requirements.
Okay. Well,
So
that's
the
what
program
I meant.
requirements is
Part of the
that
program, generating money
yeah,
for the program.
the program requirements is basically, we're jump starting the program. So we're not doing this out of the good. We're doing this to make sure that they can earn money within 30 to 90 days, 30 to 90 days of being commissioned, because sitting around for 6 months, 8 months, they're not, waiting to be dispatched or being able to get training. That doesn't work for us. So
Okay, well, that
our
doesn't work for anybody because, as you know, when I train people, they have, Drill Sergeant Daniel comes up, and Drill Sergeant Daniel says you have to stay trained and be prepared by running your drills, running your practices repeatedly. So, how do we do that with these people? So, let's say you've got, 100 of your membership, 100 memberships, and you need to get them trained up. What is the process to keep them ready for their deployment? How does that actually work?
Well, again, I'm going to go back to, first of all, I'm going to start off by saying memberships are independent. They're organized as NGOs. So for me to tell them how to do their training, that's not my place.
Okay,
But we do require them to have the basic CERT, the CERT training that FEMA requires. And in some cases, we might encourage the officers of the NGO to take one step further and get some command training that FEMA provides. But all this information, all this training is through online services. That's not the issue. It won't be a problem. But if a membership has an opportunity to do mock training with the state or local government or whatever, we encourage that. So any opportunity that they have to actually deploy without being deployed to an actual disaster, we will encourage. So our focus is training them to work together and not necessarily work to be as a CERT, because it's not our focus. All the bulk of the administrative and the requirements are compartmentalized. So the oversight committee helps them help them, which the oversight committee is an NGO.
okay,
So you have NGOs talking to NGOs, and the committee is the only actual authorization to talk to the public, the program service center, which is a private company and part of the company that I own. So and they're the sole service provider. So back to the training thing. Um, if if the if the program manager from if or the committee thinks that the membership isn't going to pass our commission, there's really nothing lost, because we just take back we keep the equipment. It's our equipment. It's the items that are a part of their service program. So we're
right.
not, so basically it's up to them to meet the requirements, and since we're not able to tell them what to do or how to do it, if they don't meet it, it only leaves us one choice, is to basically find somebody else. And out of a big country like the United States, I don't think it's going to be a problem finding 1,000 memberships, a
Okay, so
thousand
let me see
memberships.
if I got this
So
right. Let's say I have
sure.
Daniel's 501(c), and it's contingent on me to ensure that my group of people, my membership, is covered under basic CERT training. That's going to be available to anybody, anywhere. We can take the majority of this training online. If we have a specialty niche that we're working in, then it's up to us to stay proficient in that specialty niche. So that way we can actually use it when we need to, correct?
Correct.
And then it's really what you're looking at is your oversight committee is basically just looking to see what I's are dotted, T's are crossed, which fit within the program. Is that correct?
Yes, and they also will also help the membership execute any kind of new services they want to perform. So,
Okay.
I mean, the memberships are independent, but they always know they have the oversight committee and the program service center behind their back,
Okay.
covering their back.
Well,
So
speaking,
they're not trying to organize or develop a sustainable membership in a vacuum. That doesn't work. We have to be proactive. We have to be, helping them to succeed. But that's the extent. So,
okay. So you're talking about the oversight committee. It sounds like a governing body of some sort.
yes, sir.
So who serves on it and how is it going to manage 1,000 independent NGOs?
Well, I think this is the beauty of it and the cohesion between members, committees, and program service center because when memberships are approved, the one officer from each member serves on the committee
Okay.
automatically. Okay, so they're part of it. So they're part of that committee. They're part of that decision process, and that allows the memberships to know what's going to come down the pike. Or it's a communication, a line of communication, which is very important, as you know, very important. So there's that. Then a person from the service center will be on the board, and a person from the operations will be on the board. Those board members are non-voting. They can't vote. They're there for advisory and they're there for counsel. Then we have a position open for FEMA as uh, an um, officer at large. So basically, there's a position if FEMA wants to send somebody to be on the board, they can, but it's not necessary. But we welcome FEMA to be participating in our discussions. So because in our view, the for the eCERT program is FEMA is the client, the memberships are the customer. So and for the memberships, um, the victims or the people impacted by disaster are the customer, and the cities and the local government, they're grouped within that. They're all customers when as far as the membership is concerned. So
Okay.
they don't have to worry about the crossing over lines or anything. They're seamless.
Okay. Well, that sounds pretty interesting. I've never really heard of an organization quite laid out like that before. So you've got something unique going on here. So let's get back to the Mavis unit because that's where my interest is peaked right now. We talked last time is like this is it's a satellite communications array. It's a several servers in it. It's got all sorts of communication capabilities, but it's more than that. So you mentioned that each membership will basically be deployed with an independent Mavis unit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's say we deploy 5 or 6 memberships into a disaster area. How are they going to coordinate during a disaster? What are they going to do differently with a bunch of them together as opposed to just one?
Well, the technology is all the same. So they sync up as soon as they sync up because there's no interface. They're part of the same network. They're part of the operating systems, and they're basically in because they're maintained at the disaster deployment center, so they're never out of date with each other. So when they drive up to a disaster, um, is that we already know that Mavis 1 and Mavis 3 and Mavis 5, they're all communicating with each other automatically through to their network. So the communication isn't that issue. That leaves how to the human resources, people coordinate with each other.
Right.
And they can do it directly. They can do it through the committee, the oversight committee, who has mobilized an overhead team. Whenever a membership is in the field, there's a team that's going to be mobilized just to manage to help those memberships manage that disaster for them. And then the program service center will also have an oversight team that helps the committee help the membership, that kind of stuff. So there's redundancy in the system to make sure that the people in the field, the members in the field are safe. And if there's anything that changes as circumstances change, they can respond.
Okay.
And so you have there's redundancy in the program that assures we can't cover all the bases, but I think we covered most of them.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So let's look at this Mavis unit again. We were talking earlier about how the disaster management complex, say multi-billion, almost $1 trillion industry. So you're looking at manufacturing. You were mentioned earlier that you have a facility you're going to be open up where you're going to manufacture these units. So how is that going to impact the local community as far as jobs and economic development?
Well, yeah, it's for the local community, it's going to be huge because it's 125 jobs. It takes 125 jobs to manufacture at the pace that we're set to be able to produce a thousand units. So for locally, and I'm committed for family living wages. So basically, these jobs that are being made are substantial and create the tax base and such, for the local community. But it's also for the state that we I can't disclose at this point, but because there's an NDA involved. But the fact of the matter is, to the state, it's basically they're hosting a national disaster resource. So it's fairly significant for the state because they can claim fame that they're the state that is hosting this program, which services the entire country. So there's some benefits to that. But the overall investment, I think we're investing we're at the end of the economic development process before we start another process, the process to break ground. But that investment is about $43 million investment in a new manufacturing plant that will have railroad access to where when Mavis units are manufactured, they are sent by railroad to a disaster deployment center, to one of the disaster deployment centers, which maintains and deploys the Mavis units and the equipment to a disaster.
Okay, so
So
once it's all set up, you'll have stuff scattered around the country, sort of like a warehouses, so to speak.
yeah, the manufacturing will be isolated to one state, and then the disaster deployment centers are going to be scattered throughout other states. One might be in New Mexico, one might be in Washington, D.C., one might
Okay.
be,
So it's
that
easier
kind of
for
thing.
them to get around the country that way.
Well, it's response time.
Right.
We want to be able to have people staged within 24 hours. So, going from the West Coast to East Coast, um, the best I could make, I made a trip. I did it in 54 hours by myself, but which is moving. But you can't do that. I mean,
No,
that's just me.
that's not
But
sustainable.
that's not sustainable and it's not safe.
Right.
So, bring people in from Oklahoma and or Nebraska or something like that. That makes sense if for disasters. So,
Okay.
to be able to have that diversity.
Okay. So another interesting thing that we discussed a couple of weeks ago is a company called the law firm Winston and Strawn. So what's significant about them, and how does this boost the program's credibility?
Um, you know, I get it's not necessarily it's more or less Michael Blankenship. I was on Lincoln and he did a podcast, and as you did a podcast about digital currency. And as you know, an element to the eCERT program is that we're introducing digital currencies as digital shares, and the digital shares are also doubling as personal disaster mitigation insurance policies.
Okay, that's
So
different.
it's a unique way of using digital currency for disasters, for people impacted by disasters. And the thought process is that they can exchange their digital currency, digital shares, for hard currency during a disaster. So that's the premise of it. But the fact of the matter is that the the fact of the matter is it's important that people have access, back to what we were saying before, access to cash during disasters without dipping into their savings account using credit cards, or drawing 401ks. A person with $200 basically can buy digital currency, and then they know, and part of our program is we guarantee that $200 is there. So if they ever need it, they can have it back. They can
Okay.
exchange it.
That's
So
a
it
unique
makes
look at using digital currency for something other than investment or just buying stuff.
Right. And the digital currency, the digital shares is actually tied directly to the assets that we build. So the building, the manufacturing building that we're talking about, even the Mavis units contribute to the value of that digital currency or digital shares. So a digital currency owner, digital share owner, benefits from the market value of the change of the currency. It also basically will get dividends from their currency, because as the program moves forward, their investment increases because the value of the digital currency is based on how the program hits its milestone. So, and then in addition to that, of course, you get the interest and you get the benefits of, of trading across different investment options, plus the benefit by having your investment held in trust. So it's protected from any downturns in the market, and it will always be there in case you need it. There's only one fund that we put limitations on how much a person can invest in, and that's the personal investment policy fund accounts. So we basically restrict somebody from investing $250,000 and no more than $250,000 in that particular fund. But they're free to invest in the other funds that are actually tied to real world assets that the program creates.
Okay, so all of these are basically in the incubation stage right now, though. Is that correct?
Nope.
Nope, they're already up and running.
Yep. They're in
Okay.
process. They're in
Okay.
at one point. They're all in a stage where this is not we're not working in vacuum. So everything is kind of connected with each other. The manufacturing is connected to the digital currency, which is connected to the digital shares, which is connected to the personal disaster mitigation policy. So they're all kind of have to, for me to do this correctly, I have to bring everything up to speed. So when we potentially break ground within 3 months of the manufacturing, people should be able to buy digital shares before we break ground. So within a couple of months, a month, they'll be able to start buying digital shares through using digital currency. So we're not talking about incubators. Everything is set. But back to the question with, I think we got off with Michael Blankenship. Um, when I basically was talking to Mike, he impressed me because we share the same thought about using digital currency and making sure it's done right. So I'm consulting with Mike, and he's basically steering me in the right direction. That there won't be any shenanigans going on with our digital currency. So when we do open our doors, the digital currency owner will know that they are buying a piece. They're investing in the piece of the program, the piece of the eCERT program, in addition to having a digital currency for investment.
Okay, well, that sounds very interesting. Again, like I said earlier, it's unusual, not something I've heard of before, but hey, we're into doing new stuff. So let me see, we're almost about time to wrap up, but I got an interesting question here popped up in my mind. This didn't
Sure.
just happen overnight. You didn't just wake up in the morning and said, this is how this is all going to work. I'm sure you had to think about it quite deeply at some point. So tell me, during your process, I'm sure you found some obstacles in launching this program. So what were they and how did you overcome them?
I'm not gonna, yes, you do have obstacles. There's an extremely steep learning curve in doing what I'm doing. And just like what we're talking about the digital currency, we're breaking new ground in every direction with digital currency, how we respond to disasters. So, yeah, it's a matter of working through the problems. And I think there aren't any obstacles at this point. It's just a matter of doing the work. So that's what we're focused on. We're doing the work. We're checking the boxes, making sure that we're not prematurely doing things incorrectly that we have to backpedal on. So because as soon as we break ground with the manufacturing facility, um, the clock is ticking big time because
Okay.
we have to be fully manufacturing 20 to 30 units in 8 months. That means putting people to work and getting them to train and getting them to work, that getting to learn how to build a Mavis unit, because they are special units. They're not just a trailer. They're structurally sound, and helicopters can pick them up, and place them anywhere they want. And that is something that came out of the U.S. Forestry Service. That's what they wanted to do with the Mavis unit that I provided them. But at the time, it would have crushed it as a tin can. So the new Mavis units are structurally built. The wheels fold up into the undercarriage of the trailer. The satellite dish is tucked away on top, so everything's streamlined, and we call it the flying trailer out of a out of a joke, but it stuck. So we just call it the and there is no other trailer like it.
Okay.
So
So,
and it's
so
and
I'm
patent pending,
imagining,
of course.
I'm imagining a Connex with wings on it and wheels under it.
No, this thing, the Connex, we looked at a Connex trailer, a Connex unit, and it was too heavy. It didn't do, and it was too much work. It was just easier to put people to work, build these units, and move on.
So it came out better to build the unit from scratch as opposed to repurposing a Connex.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a good thing.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's not something that we wanted to do. Plus the volume and inventory of Connex boxes are low because they're being shipped away to other countries, and China may have a lot of boxes, but we don't.
Okay. No big
You know,
deal. That's right. You found a solution for one of those obstacles you were running across there. That worked just fine, right?
yep, that's what I do. I mean, I worked
Right.
as you know, I spent 3 years in Guam as the civilian officer in charge of construction, waiting for marine facilities. So yeah, I learned overcoming obstacles was almost part of the job description. So
Okay.
yeah, not a problem. We find solutions, and we're not deterred.
Okay. So, well, since we're getting ready to close up here, if you're just now coming into episode 2, Mark mentioned earlier it would be in your best interest and to learn more is to go back to episode 1. There will be a link to episode 1 down below this vlog or in this podcast so you can find it. go listen to it, watch it, do what suits you. And if you want to reach out to myself or Mark, there will be contact information and websites for you to look at in the information below the vlog or the podcast. Anything else we need to know about Mark? Did we miss anything?
No, nope, I don't believe so. I hope I answered your questions and I didn't get off track too much, but
Okay, we're
it's
doing
an
great.
exciting program. It's an exciting program, and yeah, we are doing a lot of things different only because we need to.
Okay.
Because again, disasters will happen. They'll intensify, and right now, we're the only service out there that does what we do.
Okay,
So,
so being a unique service right on the cutting edge of technology and building itself up to help impact the lives of millions of people who are unfortunately subject to disasters. I thank you for coming here, and for all of you listening, there will be an episode 3 in a week or so where we're going to be looking at what I call investing in resilience and what is the future of eCERT. And remember, link down below for episode 1. This is episode 2, and episode 3 will be upcoming. Contact information is also below this podcast or this vlog. Anything else, Mark?
no, sir, I appreciate your time and thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, well, I'm learning something every day, and I think that's great. So we're out of here. Till next time, please, everybody stay informed and stay safe. Thank you for watching, and remember to like, share, and comment.